Hi, this is Gary Eppinger. I will be reviewing the CTI proposal for ABC Technology. This is a fictitious company, and this report is targeted at the C-suite executives. So, to kick off this presentation, I'll be providing some background knowledge around cyber threat intelligence. I don't want to assume that C-suite executives have a great grasp on the cyber threat landscape. So this is a quote by Gardner. I don't want to read this verbatim, but just to kind of sum it up, right? The key information in this quote is actionable intelligence on an emerging threat. So an emerging threat can be an internal threat actor, right? Or an external threat actor, right? That just wishes to do harm to your company and is taking that actionable intelligence on that threat and being able to make decisions upon that. So just to provide some additional background on the types of cyber threat intelligence, right? You're going to have strategic, operational, tactical traditionally, and each one is going to have a different target audience and also going to answer different questions, right? Strategic is what we're going to be trying to focus on here, and it's going to be focused on who and why to give senior leaderships that foresight into what's coming and what's going on in the industry and why. So as I stated in the introduction, this presentation is for ABC Technology, who's a fictitious company. I assume that they're in the healthcare industry, that they're active in 13 countries, right? And this report was in response to an executive request to understand the threat landscape, threat actor capabilities and targets, key controls, and provide recommendations around improvement opportunities based on the threat landscape. So to provide an overview of this report, this chart on the left, you have your sections. On the right, you have outcomes. Outcomes will drive recommendations, which is the last section of this report. Within the sections, just to go over it at a high level, right? Your industry overview will tell you what attacks are happening in your industry. Competitor analysis will provide you an understanding of your competitors and what disrupting technology they're coming up with. Threat actors are going to provide you what threat actors are prevalent and active in our industry, right? The post-mortem breach analysis is going to look at some high-profile attacks, and this is helpful so that you don't have to make a mistake to learn from it. You can learn from other people's mistakes, right? So this chart highlights some of the key cybersecurity deficiencies within the healthcare sector. And before I dive into them, you'll see on the right, this obviously adds up to over 100%. And within the survey that this was pulled for, participants were able to select multiple priority deficiencies. And to pull out a couple, you have resources. Within the cybersecurity industry, resources are underfunded and are inexperienced. You also pull out another prevalent one. You also have a large number of devices connected to the network, which adds complexity, right? With the addition of mobile devices and connectivity, you have additional devices on the network, and this also expands your attack surface. To expand on some of the additional industry trends, medical devices are a key point for most companies in the healthcare sector, and that's because of the amount of R&D investment that it requires, and also most companies leverage them as a key differentiator. Medical devices are now being connected to the internet to provide additional functionality to our users and customers, but with that, it also opens up to some additional security risks, right? You can now steal patient data from that medical device. You can also move lateral network if that medical device is exploited, right? So now our attack surface is even expanded. So we provide a high-level overview of the threat actors that are prevalent in the healthcare industry. You have APT groups, you have criminal organization and hacktivists being the most prevalent threat. Within each threat actor, they have distinct motives, and with those motives and with that threat actor group also goes along with some advanced or distinct tactics, right? For APT groups, they're going to be coming in with more advanced capabilities. For criminal organizations, they're going to be targeting PII only for financial gain, right? So that's selling your data to a competitor. That's selling your data on the black market for a quick financial gain. Hacktivists are trying to further a political agenda, so they're going to go for putting up political propaganda on your website for visibility, and it's all about furthering the political agenda. With each attacker, you have some distinct attack types. Just to highlight a few attack types, right? Spear phishing. Spear phishing is a common across all industries because of the simplicity and because of the versatility, right? It's kind of like the shotgun approach. Malware. Ransomware is, I would say, trending over the past 4 to 5 years. And what this does is encrypt your endpoint, and if you do not have backups and backup and recovery procedures and mechanisms in place, it can cripple your organization. And we'll get into an attack a little bit later that shows exactly the extent of what could happen. So to provide a brief overview of the cost benefits of some of these attacks, on the left you see the attack type, in the middle row you see the cost, right? And on the right you see the benefit of it. Just to touch on the main takeaway from this slide is that these attacks are financially reasonable for most threat actors, right? These aren't absurdly high prices, especially when you consider the benefit of it. And it's not if something can happen to our company, but it's when. So we have to make sure that we have the response processes and capabilities in place to address them for when something happens. So just to list some additional targeted assets from some threat actors, right? We touched on email within phishing attacks, medical devices, PII, patient information we already touched on, right? What is a little bit different that might be outside of your current visibility are research and manufacturing data and strategic plans, right? These threat actors understand how to capitalize on strategic plans if it's getting involved before an acquisition or before product launches. So they will not just be targeting quick financial transactional data like PII. So in this slide we'll review the NotPetya ransomware. Merck was hit by NotPetya in 2017. Merck is a global logistics organization. The NotPetya ransomware targeted operational controls in IT systems. As a result of the incident, Merck was forced to halt business for 10 days while it rebuilt their infrastructure. And the big takeaways from this incident was that this ransomware was purely destructive, and it took advantages of organizations had a flat topology, which means that all the devices were connected, so that something that spans rapidly like this will take over your network before you are able to segment it or segment the infected hosts. And this also highlights the importance of having a DR capabilities so that you're able to, so you don't have to rebuild everything, but you're able to go to a most stable backup. So to review the second breach, we'll discuss Facebook. Facebook is a social network platform that is highly targeted because of the large amount of data that they have. And in 2018, they released a software bug that provided unauthenticated access to users' profiles. We'll continue discussing this in the next slide. So to address the incident, Facebook reset access tokens, disabled the functionality that provided unauthenticated access, and reported the incident. Unfortunately, the reporting did not meet the GDPR requirements. We should take this as a recommendation, and you'll see this in a later slide. Additionally, I want to call out that the series of steps to exploit this vulnerability were very, very meticulous and very small. So that should show you that the amount of time an attacker will take to exploit some of these vulnerabilities to find a hole. So very similarly, Google+, which is a social networking platform, also found a vulnerability that exposed 500,000 records. The exploit window where this functionality was in production was between 2015 and 2018, which is a large window, right? Unfortunately, they only had 2 weeks of logs to understand exactly if this vulnerability was being exploited or had been exploited. So in response to the incident, Google decided to shut down the platform after they fixed the bug, and they also faced legal suits for missing their GDPR notification. So big takeaways from this incident is we have to get our GDPR response processes out so we can efficiently detect and report these issues, right? So we're not searching around for who needs to sign off on this, who do we need to contact. We have those processes already defined. And then also, these two organizations spend a lot of money on training their developers and software development testing, and they still pushed vulnerable code to production. This shows that these problems are very difficult to uncover. So we have to make sure that our software development processes are in line with best practices. So in conclusion, we put together some recommendations to provide us an opportunity to close some of the gaps we discovered during this report. The most important project, I think, would be acquiring some additional security resources. We budgeted for 3 security engineers, 2 security analysts, and 1 compliance analyst. Another priority project for us is GDPR compliance. We understand that GDPR comes with a 2% fine for non-compliance, and we want to develop GDPR playbooks to allow us to efficiently remediate GDPR incidents and remain compliant. Another important project for us is patch management. We saw from the NotPetya incident what can be the cost of having unpatched and vulnerable servers on the environment. It allows attackers to have lateral movement, or enables lateral movement. I'll discuss some additional recommendations in the following slide. So just to kind of further expand on some additional recommendations that we have, Splunk implementation was a priority project for us. Splunk provides us the ability to correlate various data sets to find anomalous behavior, right? We budgeted to purchase some Splunk licenses, and that's exactly what the $30,000 for. It's going to be, the operations team is going to be the additional resources we onboarded earlier, right? For another priority project for us is the Secure Vault. Secure vaults are traditionally used to store information or data over a certain dollar amount, and this will help segment high value data from moderate or low value data. And within this vault, you usually have some additional access controls like multi-factor authentication, and then you also have additional visibility, right? So for certain documents, it might require your boss's approval before you check out that document. So these additional controls will help safeguard information that we know that is valuable in our industry that we possess.